Hello everyone, we are Team 5 and we will be discussing team structure as explored in Leading Teams Chapter 4. My name is Emily Horwath and I will give a brief introduction to this topic. Too much structure in the form of red tape or over-restrictive procedural rules can hinder and demoralize teams, but structure, when used appropriately, can create a platform on which team members can be creative and develop their own norms and modes of operation. Structure enables teams to accomplish things that otherwise would not be possible. A helpful metaphor is that of a blueprint. The structure lays the groundwork for the team's norms and guidelines, while leaving room for the team to build, sync, and utilize their collective talent in unique ways. In this presentation, we will explore three important structural features. 1, the work team design. 2, the core norms of conduct. And 3, team composition. Lastly, we will explore virtual teams and how to breathe life into team structure. Anna will now discuss teamwork design.
Thanks, Emily, for the intro. Now let's talk about how we design work for teams and what to look for when doing it. First, let me introduce you a couple of concepts that create what we call internal work motivation. People feel internal motivated when they see their work as meaningful, they feel personally responsible for the outcomes, and they have knowledge about the results achieved. These three states create this motivation for individuals, but is there such a thing like a collective internal motivation? Work for teams can be large and significant. The types of work that not one individual alone can do because it's too big or too complex. Usually there's two ways of structuring this type of work, and the first is to break it down into smaller tasks and assign those to team members. The second is to assign the entire piece of work to the team and let them figure out how to deliver it efficiently, on time, and according to customer expectations. One of the major advantages of designing work for teams is the ability to create work that is challenging, complete, and significant. This is what makes it meaningful for those working on it. Collective internal motivation is also fostered by autonomy in deciding how to use resources, for example. At least a team should have the right and responsibility to monitor and manage their own work processes. Being a self-managed team is much better than being a manager-led team. And they usually know more about their day-to-day work than a manager that's not always there. This gives teams the ability to improvise, experiment, and learn from its own successes and failures. But in order for that to work, the team must have its goals aligned with the organizational goals. And the last piece is the feedback. To learn, teams need feedback about the results achieved. If they never know what came out of their work, they won't be able to tell if the way they're doing things is good or isn't. And if they don't learn that, there's no way they can improve. Designing the work is important, and one of the elements of building a successful, self-improving team. There are other elements, though, that will enable that, including organizational context, coaching, and an engaging direction from a leadership. How the work is structured is a very important thing, but it's not the only thing. Now I'll pass it over to Cherie, who will talk to you about norms of conduct.
Thanks for the introduction, Anna. Now I'm going to speak of core norms of conduct. Core norms of a team specify what behaviors are acceptable and unacceptable. Behaviors that are deemed appropriate are reinforced, while behaviors that are unacceptable are not sanctioned by a team. The collective development of team norms increases the likelihood of adherence. There are several different ways core norms are introduced in a team setting. Team norms can be imported into the group by individual members, evolve gradually as members try out different behaviors, and teams create them as part of a group structure. The majority of norms created are outward-looking and address team behaviors in relation to performance. Outward-looking norms facilitate competent team performance and also provide a solid platform on which team members can develop additional norms they may find helpful in guiding and regulating internal team processes. The two key core norms that were featured in this week's module are members should take an active rather than reactive stance toward the environment in which the team operates by scanning the environment and inventing or adjusting their performance strategies accordingly. Additionally, the behavior boundaries within which the team operates should be demarcated, identifying the small handful of things that members must always do and those they must never do. Additionally, secondary norms are behaviors members view as important enough to regulate, such as punctuality or timeliness. Now I'm going to pass it off to Laura to discuss the next part of this week's module.
Thank you. So as we know, there are many common misconceptions about team composition. The more people, the better. Similar people get along best, and everyone knows how to work in a group. One thing that most don't take for granted is knowing to pull those in the appropriate task-related knowledge and skills into a group. But these misconceptions noted here are absolutely incorrect. So although there is much focus on understaffing a project, it can actually be far more damaging to overstaff a project, resulting in inefficiency and losses. A group can never really reach their potential productivity for many reasons, but adding additional resources to a project beyond a certain optimal point will improve the project at a decreasing rate with each additional resource, as is shown in the chart on page 117. Losses are due to many things, from motivational decrements, coordination problems, and other inefficiencies that result from working as a team. Unfortunately, the more people you push at a project, the less efficient it becomes. So when we talk about mix, we're talking about the different types of personalities and competencies you bring to a group. So you want to have a balance of similar-minded people in that they can communicate with each other and collaborate effectively, but enough differences that they don't bring the same perspectives to the team. That being said, teams do gradually develop shared views as their work and experiences converge together. Task-focused conflict form diverse perspectives can improve the group's outcome, as they must work more creatively to come to solutions. So there is a balance between the two. Not everyone is a team player, but there are always ways to work through these issues. So everyone's familiar with that one person on a team sometimes who doesn't really know how to work effectively with everyone else. It's not necessarily that the person doesn't have the interpersonal skills in order to work creatively with the team. So there are many ways of dealing with this. You can train them. You can utilize their skills while keeping them at a distance, and try to put them on a team with strong leaders who can try to utilize them the best way possible. Essentially, taking advantage of their skills while minimizing risks to the overall group. You just have to be sure not to be too quick to take these actions, because splitting or scapegoating can be occurring, and that could be detrimental to everyone. Next is Brent.
And thanks for that introduction. Hi, I'm Brett Lincoln, and we're talking about breathing life in teams and virtual teams. Hackman and Jeanette studied military and civilian air crews specifically to understand how those crews responded to the change in the pilot. Pilot is considered the leader of the flight. They have positional authority over everyone. They learned that the teams are self-reliant and they're very organized along their specific missions and tasks. They're interoperable, independent of the change in team leader. Team members default to their tasks as well as established norms. I think it's safe to say at this point we're all well on our way to expertise in virtual teams and how they operate. They're proliferating because technology enables decentralization. However, there are limitations. Besides what Hackman alludes to as the potential tyranny of structurelessness, we can note that there are several drawbacks to virtual teams. For instance, they lack the structural conditions that guarantee workplace productivity and those norms and conduct. And there's also potential for haphazard team assembly by organizations. Lastly, we want to thank you all for viewing our presentation for the week.